Hey everybody, since we are either starting a new series or reading a standalone book, I am jumping in to remind you what the rules are for this podcast. First rule is no real people stories. That means that any details from our own lives are merely anecdotal, and we are not reading any books that depict real people as their characters in any way or are based on historical events. Second rule is that we are judging everything off of how the author treats characters and what they put them through. We are not judging the accuracy of the trauma, the accuracy of any actual conditions that may be portrayed, or the authenticity of a character's reaction to that trauma or that particular condition. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The hosts are not trained professionals, and their opinions come from personal experience, not professional training. In this episode, we discuss fictional depictions of trauma and violence that may not be suitable for all listeners, so please take care of yourselves. Specific content warnings for each episode can be found in the show notes. Events in the media are discussed in approximate order of escalation. This episode contains spoilers. Thank you to Amira and Shannon for the suggestion for our series this week. This week we are reviewing The Hunger Games, Book 1 by Suzanne Collins. In this book, Katniss has to fight to survive at home and in the arena against everything the Capitol can throw at her.
Hi, I'm Nicole.
And I'm Robin, and this is Books That Burn. And we are launching straight into our factions for The Hunger Games. We have Katniss, Peeta, Gale, Haymitch, Rue, and Katniss and Rue's mother. We have the residents of District 12, President Snow, the residents of the Capitol, and in this we don't really have residents from any other districts.
Now that we're talking about it anyway.
Yeah, they are there. There are 11 other districts. For the minor character spotlight, we are talking about Katniss's mom. I would love to say what her name is, but she doesn't get one. And when I realized this and tried to search the internet to see if I just didn't remember it, I found something about the actress from the movie saying she made one up. So she really, really doesn't have a name. Doesn't have a first name. Talking about widowhood, she grew up as almost as wealthy as you can be in District 12 without being in the bureaucracy. Well off, it seems like, and left her family to marry a poor miner. And then he dies, and she's got 2 kids, and she goes into this depression where she just can't move. She's so unable to function that she is starving, and her children are starving. And we are going to talk more about starving later. But as it relates to the mom, one thing that I really, really appreciate in this characterization of her depression and everything is that when we learn about it, it's not wallowing in ideation, because obviously Katniss is not having her mom's ideation. But also by the time we see her, she is doing what she can to help the other people who, for very similar reasons, are also depressed in District 12, because they also have family dying in mining accidents and don't have enough food. And because she had that apothecary training, she is giving them what she wishes she'd had the resources at the time to give herself. And I really like that.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's really good framing. And I also think that the book gives her mother more credit than Katniss does.
Mm-hmm.
There's very much a sense of, like, Katniss really honestly, and I realize that this is not a topic about Katniss, but Katniss is the point of view here. There really is a framing from Katniss where she honestly feels like her mom just left, died, abandoned them, gave up, whatever, when her dad died, and she really feels like they were abandoned by their mom.
She spends the rest of the series.
And then also their mom was now another mouth that she had to figure out how to feed.
Yeah. And she spends the rest of the series worried that her mom is going to go away again and still need to be fed.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because her mom really has this really cool narrative, this really cool story. And I mean cool not as in a, oh wow, look at this, but as in a like she had this thing that really literally did almost kill her, and by extension would have killed her children, but her own inability would have killed her children. And she took it and said, you know what, actually, I'm going to use the information and training and knowledge that I already had, and I'm going to keep myself going and also help other people. And it's just, it's done in such a quiet background way, but also like the difference between, I know we're only talking about book one, but as we've read the series, I know I was thinking about this topic, the difference between her mom's portrayal of direct visuals of what she's doing and how she's doing it and what's going on from book one all the way till the end of book three is this stunning character growth. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool. And it's the kind of thing where, like, I will, for reasons we'll get into in a later topic, I will probably not read this series again.
Yeah.
But if I were going to, I would like to read almost, I guess, like a short story that is just the mom's character growth. I would love to see it. It doesn't even have to be like her point of view. It could just be like a bird's eye view as she goes from this very, 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 very non-functional, barely eating, relying on her 12-year-old to hunt and feed them, and has been for years.
You're going before the book starts, because she's not... Katniss is more than 12 when it starts.
Is she?
Yeah, because the whole thing is that Prue is... Sorry, that Rue... The whole thing is that Rue... Rue is 12
well,
now.
Yeah, but starting from when her dad died.
Yes, and she was still 11, and so they couldn't sign up for the Tesserae.
Right, because we get Katniss's perspective on things and how her mom was back, like, even starting then.
Yeah.
Even if the book doesn't start then, like, the story definitely does start then.
I was just clarifying that you would want this hypothetical short story to go back that far.
I honestly, I would love to have it. I would love to have this hypothetical short story start when the mom is training as an apothecary. And then meets this person and moves away from a more privileged lifestyle to be with this person and has children and still has this knowledge, and then loses that person that she gave up pretty much everything in her life for. And then is at the whim and mercy of her then preteen child, trying to feed them and keep them functional and alive. And then slowly, building back up and having a business and starting to care for people again. And then ending this series, and I'm not going to spoil how she is at the end of the series, but ending the series just as a fully functional human being in a way that, like, she's absolutely not in this book. I don't know. I think that she has this really cool narrative, and I don't want to say it's overshadowed by Katniss's low opinion of her, but I do think that it is very interesting as a reading it, because both things are there. Both this very cool, almost triumphant character arc, and also her daughter's low opinion of her, and just...
Yeah, it's not like she thinks
both
badly of her. It's not like she doesn't think badly
does.
of her. Well, okay.
She literally thinks of her as a burden and also useless. She thinks awfully of her.
I think the book 3 characterization stuck much more in my head because she has much better thoughts about her by then. But
but in book 1, no. In book 1, she literally thinks of it as you are useless, and also I'm still feeding you.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
that's it. There isn't even, like, a positive relationship warmth or compassion or tenderness, or it's all very, very just, you are another mouth to feed, and I hate you because you couldn't have fed me ever.
Oh, that's true. There's no dynamic,
there's no positive relationship dynamic, even a little bit in book one.
I was thinking that there was, because, like, there's all kinds of positive thoughts about how the mom taught Rue to do a thing.
I mean, I guess.
Wait, do I have the names right? Who've been saying?
I think you flipped them. Rue is not her sister. Prue is her sister. It's okay.
No, because Prue is not. I kept mixing them up.
Yeah.
Dang it. Alright, so for everyone listening to this, Prim is the sister's name.
Primrose. Yeah.
Yes. I'm sorry that I've been saying Rue. We typed it in wrong. It's Prim. No need to email us. We figured it out. You should take me just saying Prim and edit that in over every time I said Rue. Nope.
Nope.
Dang it. Okay.
No. All right. So there's moments where her mom is characterized in book one as being helpful toward her sister. But as far as, but there's no relationship between them that's anything positive. Like, we almost get the impression, if any book like this would be to have this line, it would be this one. But we almost get the impression that Katniss would rather just not have to even bother feeding her mother. Like, if she could just feed her and her sister, then they would be so much better off. And her mom, because she talks about how her mom just takes up food. Like, that is a thing that she says.
And I had been thinking that there were more positive thoughts, because I had been mixing them up with the positive thoughts about how much Prim was learning to do the thing that their mother was doing.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of positivity for Prim learning skills that she wishes her mother had never abandoned.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. But again, like, that's this huge negative indictment on their mom. That's not a positive thing about the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the mom is the one teaching her sister. So.
Talking about Katniss and faking a relationship. To be clear, in a technical sense, they have a relationship, but it is...
they're faking a romantic relationship.
Yes, they're faking a romantic relationship. They're heavily implying, but not actually having a sexual one. With stuff like, sleeping together in the train car overnight, like, different things that make everyone think that they're doing more.
Yeah.
Let alone what I'm going to call the lie later on. The lie that heavily implies things. Mentioning that is a thing, I think here is important. We don't need to delve into that particular thing, because it's not in this book. It's in one of the later ones.
Yeah.
But because Peeta has real feelings for her, as far as we can tell, she's got kind of this, like, oh, he loves me. Do I feel anything for him or not? She's not sure how she feels about Gale. Gale's acting like they were together and she cheated on him.
Yeah, Gale is being awful and possessive and just all-out toxic in just really bad ways in general.
Yeah. So on
and
one hand,
also like with Gale's whole possessiveness thing, you would think that Gale, of all people, would understand the doing this thing to survive.
Yeah.
That's like their whole dynamic. That's like the whole reason that the two of them are as close as they are, is because the two of them together are going out and illegally gathering food to survive. That's their whole thing.
But also
Gale has this possessiveness about Katniss, and it's like, ugh.
But also, in a sense, she left to go hunt with somebody else. Like, I know that sounds weird, and I'm not trying to...
She was kidnapped. She was kidnapped and then didn't refuse to survive.
No, but what Gale's seeing on the screen, hypothetically, because we don't get his perspective on it, what he's seeing in this, like, package, like, love story, and she's saying things about having already liked him, and Peeta is saying, and probably not lying, about having loved her for a very long time. And especially since they had a more casual relationship, we don't get enough information to know whether Gale would have a real reason to think that maybe she had also been hanging out with Peeta this entire time. Not that that would justify it. Like, this whole thing is, like, really, really terrible.
Yeah.
I just really like Gale and want to...
You just don't want him to be...
I just want to say that he is also in pain and being hurt, and they shouldn't be each other's enemies. But in this book, it creates a lot of stress and toxicity because there's so much weight placed on a romantic relationship that it feels like the thing is happening where Gale thinks if she has a romance, that means they can't have their platonic thing. Complicated when he indicates that he would like a romantic thing. That's my spiel there.
Yeah, I really just, I don't know, react to...
treating your significant other like they can't have a relationship
it's
of
more than
some
that.
kind without you is bad.
Is
and
bad
on top
already.
of that, treating not your significant other like they can't have a relationship without you is even worse.
Yes, that's the thing that is like they're not, they're like, she and Gale are not together and have never been together and were never together at all. And and then he's treating her like they have been for a long time, and also she's betraying that somehow. But she's not. And so there's just this, I don't know, it's just the worst of both worlds for her with him.
This is why the romantic, sexual, and platonic axes are different and need to all be given important weight.
Different.
And treated like they're different. But all really important. And them getting all muddled together.
It's just not okay.
It's not
and also, so Peeta, there's this whole thing where, like, okay, I understand why Haymitch and Peeta didn't tell Katniss that this was going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Survival-wise, I understand why that was the tactical ploy. But if they're going to do that, Peeta has to be the person to understand that Katniss...
that she doesn't actually...
That Katniss is fully able to fake it to survive. And the fact that was not understood by Peeta...
Haymitch clearly understood.
Haymitch understood. Haymitch was fine. Peeta didn't understand. And Peeta was the instigator from a, like, stunt stage projection point of view.
For anyone who didn't read these books and doesn't know what we're talking about... Peeta surprised Katniss by, while he was being interviewed and she was watching, announcing that he had loved her for a very long time and was currently in love with her, and she was so shocked that on camera she, by being genuinely shocked, did a reaction that made it look like she was excited and surprised. Potentially, It's hard to judge from the text, but that's certainly how it was. That's how it was treated. And so Peeta's been surprises her with this. Out of nowhere, they have to pretend to genuinely be building a romance in order to survive. And then he spends the rest of the trilogy hurt and upset that maybe she didn't also genuinely love him the whole time and doesn't really definitely want to be with him.
Yeah, like his actions on stage, regardless of whose idea it was or why, his actions on stage forced her to either pretend to be in love with him and want him or die.
It's like it's literally assuming that characters who maybe play around with a thing on a reality show are then going to get married and be together for the rest of their lives. That's literally what's expected of them. And he is expecting it to be real too, because in this world, the reality show never ends.
He bought into his own ploy.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, he bought into his own ploy and has no self-awareness of that. Like, okay. I don't know if this is a popular or unpopular opinion or what. I honestly feel like, okay, first off, I think the book was written really well the way it is, and I think that if this thing that I'm going to say next would have happened, it would not have been the same book. I'm not thinking that this would have been better, it's just different. I think, characterization-wise, if Peeta and Gale had been flipped in which part of the story they were, this would have been a very positive, healthy dynamic.
What do you mean? Like if she had ended up on the Hunger Games with the person she'd been hunting with for years? Or what sense?
Kind of. If she and Peeta had not necessarily been hunting partners, but had a, like, growing real relationship, growing up together, relying on each other. And again, not necessarily hunting for food, because that would have made Peeta a very different character. But like, let's say Katniss hunting in the woods and trading with Peeta for bread.
Okay, if they had developed a relationship that way.
If they had had a positive platonic relationship that direction, and then Peeta also still has a crush on her, and then maybe they develop into something more. And then Gale, who is also a hunter, for real, and Katniss had been Hunger Games people and then forced into a fake relationship in the Hunger Games to survive. I think that Gale, Haymitch, and Katniss would have all been on the same page and said, all right, we are surviving. We're going to get ourselves through this. We're going to live. We're going to go home. And I never have to talk to you again except to fake this in front of the cameras. Okay, bye. And then she and Peeta could have gone and have just like this healthy budding romance. And Peeta would have seen what happened on screen and not just decided she was cheating. Instead, they would have like actually probably had a real conversation about it. And when Katniss said, we did it to survive, look at me, I'm alive, and I came back to you because I didn't blow my cover, Peeta would have been hurt, probably, but Peeta would not have been hurt and given her the silent treatment and jeopardized other people's survival to do so. Instead, it would have been, oh, this sucks, and then they would have probably actually worked through it. But that would have been a much healthier book, and this book is not about healthy relationships.
Nope,
so
this book is not about... No one in this book is healthy. Just
no one.
Nobody.
At all. But also, like, but I do think that would have been an interesting flip, because I think that in the Hunger Games, everyone in their team would have been on board if that had been the characters that had been in that situation.
Also, this dystopia is so extreme and terrible and overbearing and all-pervasive that if anyone in here is totally fine, something is wrong.
Or they die.
Or they die. And we don't get to find out what was wrong, other than that they died.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, are you ready for our big topic for this week? All right. Moving on to our third topic, food starvation and food insecurity. Just have a trigger warning for this discussion because this is a topic where literally describing it might be triggering for some people. Please take care of yourselves. It's called The Hunger Games. And that theme is through the entire series. We are focusing on how it shows up in book 1. So, for Katniss, the Hunger Games started as soon as she was born. And I think maybe the cruelest trick in the book is pretending like the games are only once a year and only for those 24 children. It's not. It's everybody, it's all the time, and as book 1 goes on, Katniss spends more time in the arena thinking about food, thinking about how she's going to get food, thinking about how she doesn't have enough, thinking about how she needs water, thinking about how she's thirsty, than she does actually worrying about fighting or fighting other tributes. Anything to add to that?
I would argue that thinking about food is combat in that situation.
Right.
Because they're all in like a 24-sided war of attrition.
Oh, sure. No, it's...
But yeah, she's thinking defensively, not offensively.
Yep.
And even a lot of her offensive maneuvers are food-based.
Yeah.
Either acquiring it for herself or taking it away from someone else.
My only pushback is that mainly is book 2, but as a note for this series...
no, it's book 1. It is.
The big thing where she messes with people's food is book 2.
I mean, but there is some of that. There's other big things also.
What was the big one in book 1? It has slipped my mind.
Big one in book 1, she literally leaves Rue to go get them food.
Oh.
She grabs backpacks, she swipes things,
blowing up everyone's food happens twice. I forgot.
Yeah. No, she doesn't blow it up, but she goes in and she goes back to scavenge and to find food.
Yeah. Yeah. But in this game, when the resources are scarce, that she has food means that other people don't, and means that she is more likely to live and they are more likely to die. And I think my point stands that she spends way more time focusing on that than on actual physical combat.
Oh, absolutely. She is more worried about just not starving to death than she is about engaging in hand-to-hand combat with people unless they force her to.
Also, side note, when we say Rue, we do actually mean Rue this time, because we are in the arena.
Okay, yes. So that's actually something else that plays into this food defensiveness. Katniss probably would have been better off, functionally, survivally, tactically, strategically, by not teaming up with Rue.
Mm-hmm.
They put themselves in jeopardy, and she puts herself in added danger by it being 2 of them when one of them is a child who very, very, very much resembles her sister, Primrose. And these 2 characters are so conflated together in Katniss's mind, and it's portrayed in that book, that, she sacrifices her own food and her own resources to keep Rue safe.
Also, in the narrative, they are conflated so often that if you heard our first segment, it was me saying Rue the whole time when I meant Prim.
Yeah, like they're not even the same name, but the characters are so they're just conflated and compared, and not even contrasted, only compared so much.
Half the time when I try to talk about these books, I end up just saying Prue, which is neither of their names.
I think I did that a couple times in segment 1, actually.
Yeah.
When I was trying to correct you, I said Prue, because I couldn't remember Prim.
Yeah,
right, which is literally nothing.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about some ways in which this, particularly the first book, but this series, portrays food hoarding and food defensiveness. So, for just a quick side note for those who don't know and don't know that you can Google these terms separately, food defensiveness is specifically behaviors that come from feeling like your food is always at risk of being lost or gone, and you feel like you can never get more again. Like, it's not a logical feeling. It's not a, like, realistically, especially if you live in our modern world, as I'm assuming all of our listeners do. I'm assuming no one is traveling from the Paleolithic era.
Hi to our listeners from 2400. Glad the podcast is still going. Hope you like it.
How's your food situation? No, no, but so food defensiveness is not looking at something and saying, I only have 3 apples left and I will have to get more. Food defensiveness is looking at 12 apples and saying, I can't eat any of these because once they're gone, these are the only 12 apples in the universe, and they'll be gone forever, and apples are the only food left, and once I eat these 12 apples, I will die. And so, you do one of 2 things. You either don't eat any apples, even when you need to, because you need to live by eating, or you eat all of them because you know they're gonna rot, and so you just try and cram as many nutrients into you as you can, because you feel like when that runs out, there will be no more and you will die.
And this is why I channel my food defensiveness into canned goods, because it is as illogical, but at least it'll be okay and they will still be there.
Yeah,
I hauled
so
the same. I hauled
food.
Like, this topic is very personal for both of us. I hauled the same 4 cans of pineapples around for all of my bachelor's degree.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't know
and for
that.
an additional year after that. I was just like, I am never out of food because I have these 4 cans of pineapple that I am definitely going to eat someday.
Gonna eat eventually, someday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we may be glib, but like this one is a very close topic for both of us.
Yeah, we're being intentionally more frivolous, or more
and
not
light.
Frivolous and light tone, because we have to. So, and I want to be clear, food defensiveness is different from starvation. Starvation is a physical thing that your body is going through. Food defensiveness is a mental thing that you can be surrounded by food the rest of your life and your defensiveness will never go away.
Food defensiveness, because of having had food insecurity.
Yeah, and food insecurity is the condition that can create food defensiveness. Food insecurity is the reality that your food might disappear or it might be gone and you might never get any more. It's the actual act of, if it's gone tomorrow.
And then food defensiveness is not being able to emotionally know that the food security has gone away. It feels like it never left.
Yes. So in this book, they have what feels to us like a very realistic portrayal of somebody who hoards
food insecure,
hoards food, is food insecure, is food defensive, and specifically I'm also talking about sharing food with Rue in the arena, because Katniss is so used to being food defensive for herself and her mom and her sister that instead of putting her own survival first in the arena, she gives up her food so that this child that reminds her of her sister might live for one more day.
Yeah.
And in this book, there are some very good descriptions of that feeling of that hunger that means that your body is shutting down. They have some very, very good descriptions of the actual impact of your vision feeling blurry and your eyes swimming and your stomach feeling hollow and you feeling like you are literally being eaten away from the inside, and that the dizziness that can come with that and the shaking that comes on your hands when your body just doesn't have enough calories. And they do a good job of describing this. And they do a good job of not just, oh, Katniss goes through the Hunger Games and is also dizzy. Like, no, it has real impact. It's in everything she thinks about. It's in everything she does. Every plan she makes centers around, when will I eat again?
Yep.
Everything.
Every single one.
Every step in her head is linked to her next meal. Because if it's not, she'll die.
My only argument against this being food defensiveness is that she is still literally food insecure.
Yes. That's true. But also...
But she's doing the things that go along with that.
Yes. And my argument for this being food defensiveness is that she is still this way even when they're being given all of the rich capital foods.
Oh, I was thinking of her in the arena. You're right.
I'm thinking of her in the whole book.
She's food defensive in between leaving home and getting to the arena. Yep. She
stuffs her face with food that she knows might make her sick because it's too rich, too fatty, at the first chance she is given on the train, because what if they're being cruel and they starve her for 4 days after this meal?
Yeah.
And to be fair, in this universe, in this book, that is a very real threat that they're under, but also, like, this is the condition that she lives under, and it doesn't take away from the fact that everything she does, literally every move she makes, is aimed toward either conserving energy until she can find food, finding food, or keeping that food until her next meal.
It is so much this practicality by necessity is pervasive. She is not the only one who's like this. She just is our point of view character. And
it's so realistic, and I'm using this word intentionally because this is descriptive and pervasive in a way that is incredibly, incredibly traumatic to read if you have any relation to this trauma.
And we say this not hypothetically. This was a stressful book for both of us to read because of that. So
this, no joke, slight bit of realism here, because this is something that I feel like this is not a trauma that we just see treated with any kind of care in media in general. And so there are some traumas that, you kind of see them and you realize how big a deal they are. This is one that I just really feel like I need to highlight because it's not one of those.
Yep.
Reading this first book meant that I did not eat for 24 hours.
Because it stressed you out so much?
No, because I was hungry and went down to my kitchen and said, what if I accidentally ate the last 5 boxes of mac and cheese and all of my 3 oven pizzas and also ate all of my pasta and also ate all of the corn dogs in my freezer and also finished up all my fish sticks and my ravioli and starved tomorrow. And so I didn't eat.
Yeah, that's what I meant by stressing you out. That is being stressed.
Sure. But I feel like this is one of those things where if you don't have this, and we'll say this in our wrap up too, I think, but this is one of those things. If you don't have this problem, these books are great. If you have this problem, just know that it is this bad because it is this well done and it will hurt.
And we're caught in a bind with describing it because either we miss impressing on people who don't have this how much, yes, this is the most traumatic thing in book 1.
Yes.
Other stuff goes to the forefront in books 2 and 3. That's why we're talking about it in book 1. But hands down, this is more traumatic and pervasive than the deaths as they are depicted in book 1 from our perspective.
Yeah.
And that you feel free to disagree with us. We're gonna talk about death in later books because there's plenty of it.
Yeah.
But as soon as we read these, it was like, okay, we're talking about her mom's depression. We're talking about food insecurity. What do you want for topic 3? Just boom, boom, no question.
Yeah.
And I just that for these characters, the Hunger Games begins when they're born. Begins before they're born if their parent can't get enough for them to be okay. Before then, like, the Hunger Games don't end for these characters. It is not once a year. It is all the time. So that's, I hope we have communicated that well. This topic stresses both of us out. So
this topic is the reason that for those who didn't listen, or even if you did, this topic is the reason I said in topic 1 that I am probably not going to read these books again.
Yep.
Because it stops me from eating.
Yeah. Time for the wrap-up and ratings for Katniss's mother. It is backstory and mild or moderate, would you say?
This is hard.
Because it's not
it's
Katniss's perspective, there's no ideation.
No, but also, like, Katniss is pretty rough on her mom. But at the same time, that's not really our topic.
Yeah.
Like, if we were talking about the way that Katniss talks and thinks about her mom, I would go as far as moderate.
Yeah.
But Katniss kind of brushes over the actual trauma because that's not what's important to her.
So maybe let's say the way the trauma gets dismissed is moderate to severe. The actual way it's depicted is mild, and that itself could be stressful.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm not as personally close to this topic, so I'm not sure, but that's just my sense of it there.
I'm surprised this topic isn't harder for me. I think I identify with Katniss too much, and so it doesn't hit home.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. All right.
That's a whole other discussion that we didn't even touch on. All right.
Katniss in the fake relationship. It's moderate to severe.
I think this is severe.
Okay.
I think this is severe, especially with the almost survivor guilt mirroring that happens.
Oh yeah.
Like she feels guilty that other people she feels guilty that she isn't what other people are forcing her to be in a variety of contexts. This is severe. Okay.
Yep. I agree there. The starvation and food insecurity, this is severe. I don't think I wouldn't call this torture porn because I don't think the point was for you to enjoy it, but it's terrible, which is kind of what that category is reserved for. Like, that category is reserved for horror movie type things.
This book is written to underscore how awful it is. It's not it's not...
Yeah, there's
no gratification to reading about this.
Yeah.
At no point do you celebrate this thing. Yeah. Why this trauma? Mom's depression is... I'd
say it's interchangeable because there's so much stress and pressure that something else could have been.
I mean, she could have gotten her skills some other reason.
Yeah, her mom could have... I was more thinking that their life is so hard that, especially when Katniss's name isn't the one drawn, you wouldn't even need it to be that she was taking Tesserae to have her name be in there a lot.
That's true. Yeah, like there's just a lot of reasons this is interchangeable, but I don't think it's irrelevant. Like, it's definitely a thing that something needs to be there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. More so in books 2 and 3, but yeah.
Yeah. Fake relationships. This is integral.
It's integral. I think there are ways you could have tweaked it. We went on a hypothetical how Nicole wishes this had been handled. Yeah,
but that would have been a different book.
This had been done.
No, it's not how I wish it would have been done. I just think it's interesting to look at.
Yeah. Nicole had their little fanfic of swapping characteristics of Peeta and Gale to make
not
it
swapping
not
characteristics.
be toxic.
Keep their
story
characteristics.
Beats. Swapping story beats.
Just swap character placement.
Yeah. Anyway, with that, we're
stalling.
It is integral.
We're going to move on to the third one. But yeah, it's integral.
Let's talk about this. Talk about anything else. Yeah. So, fake relationship is integral, woven throughout this entire book and through the entire trilogy. You could tweak minor details, but the shape of it is the foundation part of the foundation of this book. Alright, now onto the actual foundation of this book. Starvation and food insecurity is integral to the plot. Please take care of yourselves. This book is full of ideation about starving and food insecurity. It was triggering for both of us. Please take care of yourselves. Don't read this just because it was super popular, if that's going to be not okay for you. Try not to harp on that. It's just, there's so much, and you can't take it out of the plot because it is the mechanism on which the entire twisted architecture of the Capitol runs. Making sure that everyone is not okay. Alright, now, for the trauma being treated with care, I think for the mom, yeah, it's hard to tell whether, I think it was treated with care, but not very much attention. Like, yeah, what there was treated, like, it doesn't feel like handling this well was a focus.
Mm-mm. No, but also it wasn't on screen enough to be
a problem.
Yeah.
The fake relationship is, I don't think it's treated with care.
No.
It's not at all. It doesn't have any messaging about Gale's reaction being not okay as a reaction. And part of our
all three characters are treated as though the way they're treating the other people is justified.
And one of the stanzas for this podcast is that characters don't do things to characters. Authors do things to characters. This author set these characters up to hurt each other and then never said, and what these people are doing is not okay. Just never said it. Not in the particular way that we discussed that we think it needed. Anyway, this was not treated with care.
It was not treated with care, but I would also like to point out that the premise of these books and the things being highlighted in them and the dystopian way it's being set up.
It would have been a little weird if they'd had a totally healthy relationship that understood that platonic, sexual, and romantic axes are separate. That would have been a little weird.
Even if all that had happened was just a character acknowledged that this is toxic, it would have been a different book. So, not treated with care, but I think that was deliberate, and I
will at least grant the possibility that it was deliberate. I still don't like it.
You don't have to like it, but I think it was. I think it would have been a different book if it had been treated differently.
All right.
Speaking of not treated with care on purpose, starvation and food defensiveness.
Yep, food insecurity, just
absolutely
all
not
over the
treated
place.
with care, and also we kind of talked about this in the actual discussion of the topic, but I feel like the thing that this book tries to do is hammer home the point of how bad this trauma is.
Yeah.
And I think for people who have gone through it, it's awful to read.
Yeah.
But I think that for people who have not gone through it, I think it does a good job of being not treated with care so that you realize how bad It is. And I think it was not treated with care. I think it was not treated with care deliberately. And I also think that was intentional. And I think that was intended to drive home that feeling to the people that have never experienced it.
Listeners, email us booksthatburn@yahoo.com if you have not been food insecure and these books made you feel differently about that as a thing.
Yeah.
I really want to know, because I can't step out of myself and say, oh, this would have made me appreciate this as being terrible. I think it probably would have made you think, oh, the capital is bad. But I don't know. I'm really interested. Please tell us. I
would like to allow for the possibility that was the goal. But also Robin is right. I can't step outside of this topic enough to... I'm conjecturing because I can't separate myself from this topic.
Yeah. We're gonna... we're doing this one because a lot of people, when we described the podcast, said, oh, you mean like the Hunger Games? And we were like, okay, that's gonna be stressful, but we can do it. And we're doing it. And it's perfect for the podcast. Everyone who asked is right. But it's very stressful for the two of us. So, gonna stay away from Starvation-focused books for a while. Alright, moving on to the point of view, it's Katniss.
And point of view for the next one is Katniss. And point of view for the next one is Katniss. And point of view for the next one. Yeah, Katniss is just, she's the only voice we hear. She's the only perspective we find for anything ever.
Isn't there like one chapter in a later book where it's somebody else? That's something else I was reading. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah, no. We just get Katniss. Yep. And sometimes we get Katniss who hears about other things later, and sometimes we just get Katniss, and we get a lot of Katniss not noticing things, but we also just get Katniss, and we only get Katniss, and it's just all Katniss. Katniss all the way down.
So how that matters is that not very much attention is paid by Katniss to what her mother's trauma would have done to her mother. Because the point of view is Katniss, for the point of view of the trauma, we don't have her mom's point of view. Then for the fake relationship, we only get Katniss's side of this toxic dynamic.
Right.
And then for the Starvation, we
just get Katniss.
We just get Katniss. I was just saying that I think it matters. It affects it the most with the mom, because as we discussed, it would have been a very different book if more attention had been paid to that.
Yeah.
Could be an interesting novella, as we hypothesized.
I would love to read that short story.
Yep. Alright, aspiring writer tip. You're usually the one who has this.
I am.
Yeah, this... Sorry, everyone.
This one is really hard, guys.
This one... this one's really hard. Burned us out for a minute.
Reading this book, just... literally, all I can think about is the food that I do and don't have.
In your house. Yeah.
In my house, and the money that I do and don't have for food, and I mean, I had initially planned to get up and eat today before recording, and that didn't happen, and so, like, I'm hungry right now, and all I can think is that I shouldn't eat because I don't have unlimited food. Like, I don't even know for this aspiring writer tip.
Alright, aspiring writer tip, maybe don't be so good at ideations. I don't know.
No, that's like, not fair. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
So this has a well done, realistic, pervasive ideation, and my concern is that maybe it doesn't hit a balance of... I think it maybe hits too hard on stressing out people who have this without explaining it to those who don't.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know how to fix that, but but it's genuinely...
It's a thing.
Yeah, I don't feel like this book would make someone appreciate how stressful and all-pervasive that is, I think it's going to feel a little bit more like, why is she talking about food so much? Write us, let us know. Let us know if there's a book that you think did this well. I'd be interested in reading it and then letting Nicole know whether or not I think they'd be okay to read it. Moving on to favorite non-traumatic thing about the book. I like Haymitch. I like Haymitch. I don't think he's a good person. I think he is a very smart person in the context of this world. Admittedly, a lot of how I like him is from stuff that doesn't unfold until books 2 and 3, but the seeds of it are there in book 1, and I want to mention it now. Hang in there if you're just on book 1 and you hate Haymitch.
Haymitch is
he's
cool.
He's going to become more him. I can't speak to you for you as to whether you would like that or not. I enjoyed it. Did you have one?
I like the initial pre-game dynamic between Katniss and Gale.
Yeah, that's good.
It's not 100% healthy, but I don't know.
Again,
I like
their world is so messed up. It would be surprising if they were 100% healthy.
Yeah, nothing in this book is 100% healthy.
But I agree. I like their initial dynamic. All right. That is it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye! All music used in this podcast was created by Nicole as HeartBeatArt Co. and is used with permission.
You can follow us on Twitter at Books That Burn, all one word.
You can email us with questions, comments, or book recommendations at booksthatburn@yahoo.com.
Support us on patreon.com/booksthatburn. All patrons get access to our upcoming book list and receive a one-time shout-out.
You can leave us an iTunes review. This helps people to find the show.
And find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks.